Okay. Okay, if you're seeing this, stand by. I am just going to share this stream. I'm just going to share this stream over on Twitter real quick. And then we'll get rolling here. So just 1 second. Okay, sharing that on YouTube, and boom. Now I just got to get my Facebook stream up and running. Boom. Should be going. Gonna make sure this is all up and running good before I start talking. But hello to everyone watching. It's good to see all of you guys. Okay. Making sure that Facebook is working, audio's going, and then I'm going to do a live stream talking about the weather here. Okay, it looks like the audio's working. I see you guys beginning to hop on. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to hop on here, and then we are going to look at the upcoming weather and see what we think is going to happen. Arctic air is getting pretty close. Right now we're looking at a loop of the NAM 3KM model showing that modified Arctic front reaching the border and then coming down the I-5 corridor. And then you can see that really, really deep Arctic air come down into eastern Washington as well. I see that there's quite a few of you guys hopping on Facebook now and YouTube too. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and start talking about what we can expect a little bit. By the way, what you're seeing down there in the bottom right-hand corner of the video is satellite imagery. And that satellite imagery is showing this trough of Arctic air, this Arctic lobe, coming down into British Columbia, southwest Canada here, right along our border. And if you look really close, you can see that cold air on the infrared satellite, that cold air moving into the land. You see the land, the topography features turning dark purple and blue. And then you can also see cold air coming out over the water there. And it is nearing the border of Washington as we speak. So looking at what the National Weather Service is expecting for wind chills, it is going to get pretty windy overnight as that modified Arctic front reaches the Fraser River Valley and comes into Whatcom County. Bellingham could probably expect wind chills of around -6, maybe even colder wind chills up by places like Sumas and Linden. And then this is looking at what the National Weather Service is expecting for snow totals. Thanks for those of you guys that are sending stars over on Facebook. So right now, the National Weather Service in Seattle is expecting anywhere from 2 to 3 inches up in Bellingham, 1 to 2 inches for places like Friday Harbor and Mount Vernon and Port Angeles, possibly 2 to 3 for Everett, Lake Stevens, Monroe areas, and maybe less south. But I just want to say that these modified Arctic fronts, these can sometimes hold huge surprises. They can totally overachieve for areas that we might not know until it's already occurring. I've seen this happen back when some Arctic air came in on February 3rd and 4th of 2019. It began with a convergence zone over Whidbey Island in Snohomish County. And then there was a deformation band set up that wasn't forecasted very well. And we got like almost a foot of snow here in Lake Stevens. Whether or not that's going to happen, I doubt anything like that will happen. But there could be some surprises. And then looking over at eastern Washington here, they're also expecting a few inches of snow across the region. And this is all going to be paired with really cold temperatures. What's going to be different about this snow compared to the late November into December snow is we're expecting that instead of the temperatures being right around freezing or just above freezing, that the temperatures are going to be below freezing for the majority of the time that the snow is going to fall. And then instead of getting above freezing for most areas, it's going to stay below freezing. So right now what we're doing is we're looking at the observations map from the National Weather Service. We can see the cold air filtering into British Columbia down the Fraser Plateau. And the blue numbers, that's the high pressure, or that's the pressure. The black is the temperature, and the red numbers are wind gusts. And you can see the direction that the wind is blowing with the wind barbs. So we got higher pressure building up in British Columbia, and we still have relatively lower pressure down here in Washington State. You can see that there's a pressure of 1,015, almost 1,016 there in Bellingham. Up in Williams Lake, it's 1,026. So there's a 10 millibar difference between those two from what I can see right here. And that pressure gradient, each millibar of pressure is what we call a gradient, is sucking that high pressure down towards the low pressure. And as it does that, that air is carrying with it this colder Arctic air that's up in the Fraser Plateau. And then we're going to have it come out of the Fraser River Valley into Whatcom County early this Sunday morning. And that cold air is eventually going to work its way down the I-5 corridor, cooling off much of the area. And as it goes down the area, it's going to squeeze whatever moisture is in the air out of the air in the form of precipitation and therefore snow. The National Weather Service has a couple winter weather advisories up. The first area that's going to really be impacted is up there by Bellingham, Blaine, Point Robert, Ferndale, Whatcom County, western Whatcom County. Their winter weather advisory is for a snow total of up to 3 inches, and winds gusting as high as 50 miles per hour can cause some pretty dang cold wind chills, possibly down to negative 10 below zero. So that snow for western Whatcom County is going to begin early tomorrow morning, most likely. Looking at the radar right now, there are some showers moving through the region, but currently the temperatures in much of the area are above freezing, including up in Whatcom County. It's still above freezing. But looking at the Canadian radar right here on the border, you can see that it's beginning to switch to snow, possibly up there by Vancouver. And up here, there's a little bit of a teaser of that cold air coming down towards the Fraser River Valley, Hope, Chilliwack, Abbotsford. So let's take a look at the NAM 3KM for when it is expecting the cold air associated with the modified Arctic front to reach the Whatcom County border. So right now, it is 7 p.m. So this is looking at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Now you see that little push right there? I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. See that little push right there around 10 to 11 p.m.? That is the modified Arctic front coming out of the Fraser River Valley. By 1 a.m., it starts to come into more of western Whatcom County. And this model thinks that by 3 a.m., the modified Arctic front is going to be approaching Bellingham. The temperatures are going to go from about 36 down to, look at that, 21 in no time by 5 a.m. And also at the same time, there's going to be tons of cold air coming down into eastern Washington while all this is going on. Before we get too much further with the rest of the I-5 corridor, I want to show when the snow is going to possibly begin up there by Whatcom County. So this shows that modified Arctic front reaching the border just after midnight possibly, and then switching to snow right away as that Arctic air begins interacting with the moisture that's currently in place here. And it snows up there for a while through the morning. And then that modified Arctic front comes down the rest of, pretty far down the I-5 corridor, I should say, bringing snow to some areas. Looking at snow totals here on the NAM 3KM real quick. By the way, thank you to everyone sending stars. If you're over on Facebook, as I like to say, go ahead and heart this post. If you love snow, go ahead and wow this post. If you hate snow, thank you, Barbara, for the stars. Thank you, Candy, Sis Meyer. Really appreciate that, guys. It's awesome. Okay, so looking at snow totals here on the NAM 3KM model, which is just a high resolution American model, you can see that as that modified Arctic front comes down into Whatcom County, snow totals increase dramatically there, as the snow ratio is going to be really, really high. And with this modified Arctic front, it actually brings about 2 to 3 inches, which is pretty much exactly what the National Weather Service advisory is calling for. And just for fun, I want to see what the snowfall ratio is going to be. My mouse is not wanting to select that. COD numerical. Go to this website here from the College of DuPont. Here we can actually see what the snowfall ratio is going to be in Whatcom County as this comes in. So look at that. The snowfall ratio goes from being about 3 inches of snow per 1 inch of precipitation to, in short order, being about 15 inches of snow to 1 inch of precipitation up there in Whatcom County. So up in Whatcom County, you can expect that you are going to get some nice, dry, powdery snow possibly tomorrow morning. And then watch that come down the rest of the I-5 corridor. And it gets hung up maybe around Chehalis. And also look at that ratio just come down eastern Washington. Just really, really dries out the atmosphere. But any snow that falls in areas like Everett, North Seattle, even Camino Island, Whidbey Island, if there's snow falling tomorrow around 6 p.m., the snowfall ratio is going to be about 12 inches of snow plus 14 inches of snow per 1 inch of precipitation. Not saying we're going to get 12 inches of snow. I'm just saying that a lesser amount of precipitation is going to produce more accumulation. And this is my favorite kind of snow. I'm not a huge fan of the wet stuff. I like the dry stuff. So going back to Pivotal here, let's look at what the snow accumulation totals for the rest of the area look like. By the way, I've got my buddy Jonathan with me here tonight. Go ahead and say hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
He is one of my YouTube moderators, and every now and then we hang out. So anyways, so looking at the NAM 3KM and what it's showing for snow totals, it's kind of showing light snow totals for most of the area, but spotty areas get more. But the truth is, these modified Arctic fronts, I might have already said this, can definitely hold surprises. Out here by Port Angeles and Sequim, it shows a little bit more with that orographic lift, the northerly winds slamming into the north part of the Olympics, maybe a little bit of Strait of Juan de Fuca effect snow in there. The mountains will get quite a bit. This shows Snoqualmie Pass getting around 8 inches, Stevens Pass getting around 7 to 8 inches, and Spokane area getting anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of snow. But again, especially for the I-5 corridor where we have the Puget Sound, the relatively warmer waters of the Puget Sound, as that really cold air, modified cold air comes down, sometimes big surprises can happen and we can get more snowfall than even the models expect. So for timing on the modified Arctic front, it has it coming into Whatcom County early tomorrow morning. Oops. And then it has it getting down to the San Juans by about 7, 8 a.m. By about 9 a.m. has it getting down to about Mount Vernon and Anacortes. By 11 a.m. it has it all the way down to about Coupeville and North Snohomish County, getting close to Stanwood. By noon it has reached Sequim, Port Townsend, Port Angeles. And before I talk any more, sometimes the timing on these modified Arctic fronts can be off. Sometimes the models can show them coming in faster than what actually does happen. So understand that even though I'm showing you this right now, It could arrive to you later than what I'm showing you right now, or sooner, or it could arrive right on time. By 2 p.m., it has it arriving to places like Arlington, Langley, Port Ludlow, getting close to Seebeck. And then by 3 p.m., it has it all the way across Snohomish County into North King County, close to Seattle. And by 4 p.m., the modified Arctic front has reached almost all the way down to Federal Way. And look at the temperatures behind it. By 4 p.m., in places like Everett, could be 30 degrees. Up in Arlington, could be 27 degrees. Look at that. Friday, actually, Orcas Island, I believe that is, 15. And by 4 p.m. tomorrow, the NAM 3KM has it out there in Sumas down to 13. And then that modified Arctic front, you can see it gets down to Tacoma by about 6, 7. And then it gets down to Olympia close to midnight. And look at that cold, much colder air coming down the eastern side of the Cascades. I-90 gets down to the single digits by about 11 p.m. tomorrow. Really, really cold air up there by Omak and Winthrop. You guys are going to get frigid. And then by 2 a.m., this model has it getting down to the single digits up there in Whatcom County. So before I get too much further with this update, I want to make sure I'm not missing any of your comments here. You guys are commenting quite a bit. Thanks for the stars. Barbara, I appreciate that. Possibility of snow in Belfair. Skagit County, just talked about that a bit, so I hope you caught that. It's hard to answer any detail questions like snow total amounts exactly because, again, these modified Arctic fronts can really pack some surprises, and sometimes they can come in with a whimper. And it's like, oh, I got rid of all the moisture without hardly any snow. I've seen that happen before, too. Kimberly, thanks for the stars. No problem. Yeah. Okay, looking over at YouTube real fast. I see a bunch of you guys over there. Anyone asking any specific questions over there, Jonathan?
Candy on YouTube, what do you think about Cedar Woolley and all the way to Marble Mount?
Cedar Woolley to Marble Mount. So, looking back at the NAM 3KM here, Cedar Woolley is probably going to get below freezing by maybe early to mid-morning with that modified Arctic front. And this NAM 3KM model shows you guys getting maybe 1 to 2 inches out there, but again, there could be some surprises. Okay, looking through some more of your Facebook comments. Let me know if there's any more comments over there on YouTube, Jonathan.
There's another.
Squim, Washington, Tammy Matthews could definitely get some snow, especially because the wind is going to be coming out of the north. Here, I'll turn on the wind here. Actually, the temperature with the wind bars. You can see the temperature direction or the wind speed direction here with the temperature. So you see it's coming out of the east-northeast there, out of the Fraser River Valley. And then it's going to take a bit of a turn and come basically straight out of the north into places like Port Angeles and Squim. And you guys are going to get quite cold as that cold air banks up against the slopes. And due to the wind moving across the relatively warmer waters of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, there could be some like Strait of Juan de Fuca effect snow and also some orographic lift as that cold air rams into the northern slopes of the Olympus. It'll squeeze out the moisture and perhaps possibly have some enhanced snowfall for places like Port Angeles and Squim. That's not a guarantee, but if you've lived out there for a while, you've seen that happen before.
Okay, and on YouTube, Patricia says, do you think there's going to be just a convergence zone in the King/Snohomish County line only or other convergence areas?
I think there will be other convergence areas. And the convergence is really going to begin up north to start as these east-northeast winds collide with the Strait of Georgia winds right here. Yeah. That's what's going to cause a lot of that snow up there in western Whatcom. And then as that north air comes further down, it's going to collide with westerlies out of the Strait of Juan de Fuca and southerlies coming up out of the Puget Sound. So right in here, I've seen it happen where some pretty gnarly convergence zones develop in Snohomish County right as these Arctic winds come out of the northwest, colliding with some more southwesterly winds coming up in the Puget Sound.
Yeah, it could get chaotic.
But we shall see. Okay, so looking at the HER here, we got the most recent HRRR model that stands for high resolution rapid refresh model, and it doesn't always do the best with snow, but it might be doing okay with temperatures. But it is in agreement with the NAM 3KM in terms of timing on that cold coming into Whatcom County early in the morning, just after midnight, and then by about 1 p.m. or so, reaching places like Langley, Port Townsend, Everett, and then by about 5 p.m. reaching places like Everett. And it doesn't show quite as much snow as the NAM 3KM, but the HER also doesn't do that great with modeling snow. So I think there could be more snow than what this is showing for sure, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see exactly what does end up happening. The national blend of models blends a whole bunch of different things together, different National Weather Service models, and also some other just deterministic models that are not from the National Weather Service. And it shows a dusting from most of the region, but I think that might be underdone, but it might not be too. So, okay. And then if you're curious about later in the week, there is the possibility of another snowstorm later in the week. Ooh, the RGEM went way north with Tuesday's storm. So Tuesday there is going to be more snow somewhere, but just exactly where, we don't quite know for sure. This model right here has a low going way north, whereas the European model, which I'm about to show you here, zoom in a little bit for you so you can see a little better there, has the model diving in, not the model, has the low diving in weaker and further to the south, which would be better for snow in Washington. So there is disagreement in the models with the track of Tuesday's snow. The 0Z GFS is running right now. The GFS doesn't seem like it's been handling things very well lately. But there is tomorrow's snow, and it doesn't go out far enough for us to see Tuesday's snow just yet, but we can see what it's thinking for snow totals for funsies here. It actually brings a bit more snow to Snohomish County. Take this with a giant grain of salt, but it gives about 3 inches of snow to places like Everett and a little bit more to places like Lake Stevens and Granite Falls and maybe Monroe. You can see that convergence zone signature there. Okay, as that is loading, I'm going to look through some more of your comments here on Facebook. If you're just hopping on Facebook and you haven't done so already, go ahead and heart this post if you love snow. Go ahead and wow it if you hate snow. And if you haven't done so already, you can also ring that bell icon on the bottom right if you would like to always get notified for when we go live on Facebook. And if you're watching over on YouTube and you're liking this content, please go ahead and give us a like and consider subscribing. Go ahead and leave a comment on YouTube describing exactly what you're hoping will happen. Trying to look through some of your comments here on my screen, but my Mac display is starting to go bad, so I'm getting that fixed next week. Thankfully, the CPU works. But yeah, you can also ring the bell over on YouTube if you would like to get notifications for when we get live and post new content. All right, looking through some more of your comments here on the FB. Brianna, you guys are going to get cold tomorrow and possibly snow in Marysville. Laura, it's going to get below freezing tomorrow in Camino Island and possibly some snow out there. Can you Google Maps where Rochester is? I can't remember. I'm not expecting the wind speed in Snohomish County to be all that strong, Patrick, but I'll take a look for you here on the HER model.
South of Olympia.
So maybe if you live right by the water in Everett, you might get a little bit gusty tomorrow morning with a bit of a westerly surge. Not like an intense westerly surge by any means.
I think it's overdoing that bit.
Yeah, it might be. But there could be like a 30-mile-per-hour gust, which is nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
I have talked about Everett. If there's anyone watching over in Eastern Washington, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Eastern Washington here just in a second. Leanne, I do have some merchandise available. I actually opened up the store for 24 hours, but I closed it just to make sure I could fulfill the orders that came in and make sure I have a good grasp on exactly what's going on with that so I don't, mess things up there. So let's look at Eastern Washington just a little bit more closely. So tomorrow it's going to get pretty windy out of that Okanagan Valley gap there and breezy, but the real story for Eastern Washington is going to be that cold air. So right now over in Eastern Washington, it's in the teens along north central and northeastern Washington, and 23 in Spokane. It's basically a spattering of low 20s and teens in Eastern Washington out there right now. But I'm going to go back to the HER here. The HER has it by tomorrow at noon, still being in the low 20s along the I-5 or the I-90 corridor, excuse me, but up there by like Tonasket, gets down to the single digits by about 1 p.m. And then look at that big surge of cold air right there throughout the day. That's from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. right there. Boom, just big. And that's through 4 a.m. right there. But by Monday morning, we're talking upper single digit to 10 to 11 along the I-90 corridor. Places like Ellensburg will be in the low teens. Spokane possibly down, getting close to the single digits. Up there by like Tonasket and Omak, below zero possibly. Places like Winthrop, I'm not sure if this is completely true, but man, it shows you guys getting really cold and some snow falling out there. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to look at some more of your questions and make sure I'm not neglecting anything here on Facebook. And then I'll pull up YouTube as well. Go back to this GIF here. Thanks for the stars, Chris. Vicky, I talked about Bellingham and Whatcom County right towards the beginning of this, but you guys are going to get that modified Arctic front early tomorrow morning and snow with that. And it's also going to be windy, so there's going to be blowing snow up there in Bellingham tomorrow morning, most likely. All right, looking over at YouTube here on my phone since I can see it better. Possibly some snow down Tacoma. Don't know quite how much though. Leanne Knutson, hello, if you're still watching. 1 to 2 or maybe 3 inches of snow is possible in Arlington. but we don't know for sure. It really depends on where those convergent bands set up and how intense they are. Roland Connor says, please discuss the confidence of warm up by Friday, 58 degrees at SeaTac on the 26th. I think that warm up is unfortunately coming, but the models could shift away from it. But that ridge associated with the warm up could be the reason, one of the reasons why we might get some freezing rain later in the week. Kara Noble, snow is possible in Granite Falls tomorrow. Yes. Oh, I see, Jonathan, you're answering questions and comments. Nice. Brian says, not looking good for snow in Olympia, but you never know. You just never know with these things. Thanks for those of you sending stars. I'll check here. Leanne Knudsen. Actually, oh yeah, Leanne Knudsen. Thanks for the stars. Really appreciate that. MV is 36 now. Is that Mount Vernon, Eileen? But yeah, it's 36. Yep. Okay, so you must be talking about Mount Vernon. It is 36 up there, but the Arctic air is not here yet. As you can see, we still have southerly winds. We got winds coming in from the west out there onto the coast and then coming up the I-5 corridor. That is modified air. But if you look up here in British Columbia, we got those cold temperatures coming down. Look at some of the temperatures coming into places like William Lake. It's down to 6 below zero, gusting to 23 out of the northwest. And then we got cold Arctic air slipping through the gaps in the valleys in the topography of this coastal range here, gusting to 55 miles per hour right there by King Island, down to 25 degrees. And this cold air pouring out over the Pacific Ocean is going to come back down around and back into Washington. This is going to get modified some, moderated. And the reason why is because the surface temperatures of the Pacific Ocean are quite a bit warmer than the Arctic air that's going to run over it. So the Pacific Ocean is going to warm up some of this air. But the air that's going to come down through the Fraser River Valley Gap is going to be a bit more pure Arctic cold. It's still going to get modified some. It's going to be colder up in Bellingham than it's going to get in places like, say, Everett and Seattle. But tomorrow, we are going to get that Arctic air to come down the I-5 corridor. It's not quite there yet. But as you can see in places like Lytton, it is gusting out of the north to 21 miles per hour there. So the Arctic front appears to be past Pemberton, BC, and Lytton, BC. It appears to be past possibly Merritt too. And so not too long from now, it's 7 p.m., the models show it like right around 1 a.m., this Arctic front right in here being sucked down that Fraser River Valley and starting to blow Arctic air into western Whatcom County. And then throughout the day tomorrow, Arctic air is going to come down to eastern Washington as well. But, for example, so that temperature right there in Mount Vernon is 36, 35. If the NAM 3KM were right, for example, let's take a look at those NAM 3KM temperatures one more time. And it's going to be above freezing down there in Mount Vernon until early tomorrow morning, possibly. And then once that modified Arctic front swoops through, it'll get below freezing, and then you guys won't be above freezing for a couple days. And by 1 a.m. on Monday, it has Mount Vernon down to 22. Looking at the HER for comparison. And we'll also look at the European model. Yep, by 1 a.m. 2022. So the HER is in pretty good agreement with temperatures up there in Mount Vernon. But it also similarly has you staying above freezing until tomorrow morning, gets you below freezing by about 8 a.m. And looking at the European, yep, has you above freezing. Actually, longer, and then below freezing by 4 p.m. So the modified Arctic front comes through a little bit later on the European model, a little bit sooner on the HER and the NAM 3KM model. All right, gonna look some of your questions here. Love Wall, yes, I do believe we are gonna get some snow. Thank you, Anima Mia, for the stars. Appreciate that. Thank you, Tammy Jorgensen, excuse me, for the stars. Appreciate that. Yo, Sam Ratet, good to see you. All right, looking over at the YouTube, the Schmoob here, real quick. Hello, guys. Thanks for joining on over there at YouTube. Mike asks about Granite Falls snow-wise. I think Granite Falls is going to see some snow. The National Weather Service is calling for Granite Falls to possibly get anywhere from 2 to 4 inches out there. The models do show some snow falling out there, but I'm not sure if the high resolution models are handling this Arctic front snow band, the snow bands, very well. It could be underdoing it. Jimothy Billiams. That's quite the name. National Weather Service has Monroe getting around 2 to 4 inches of snow possibly tomorrow, but we shall see. Could be more, could be less, depending on where the snow bands set up. Whiskey says that I have him them second guessing about going to Leavenworth tomorrow. Yeah, there could be some snow falling over the passes, but it wouldn't be too far out of the ordinary for the passes at least, but it's going to be pretty cold over there, that's for sure. Joey's mama asks, when should snow arrive in Blaine Birch Bay? You guys are going to be some of the first people to get snow up there in Blaine Birch Bay. So the NAM 3KM model has the modified Arctic front reaching places like Linden by about 3 a.m. And then Blaine and Birch Bay from about 4 to 5 a.m. And then that's going to be associated with snow most likely. Has it starting to snow up there by Blaine, Birch Bay by about 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and then it keeps on snowing up there for a bit. Let's make sure we get to the most recent model here. My apologies. I was looking at the old model run from this afternoon, so I'm going to double check this here. Actually has that modified Arctic front reaching Blaine, Birch Bay by about 2 to 3 a.m. on the most recent run. And has snow starting up there around that time. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Snowing the whole time on this model here. And gives you guys a couple inches of snow. You guys have a winter weather advisory in effect up there for up to 3 inches of snow. And the HER similarly shows snow falling up there as well tomorrow morning. And it's going to be cold. And the snow ratio is going to be really high. So yeah, both the HER and the NAM 3KM show Blaine and Birch Bay at least getting a couple inches, possibly 3 inches up there. All right. Meatwad says potential snow angel time with side of cocoa.
Heck yeah.
I'm not going to be talking about North Carolina snow on this live stream. We're talking about Washington State. Amanda Sargent asks about North Whidbey Island, Oak Harbor snow potential. What do you think, Jonathan? What do you think the North Whidbey Island? And go ahead and lean forward here a little bit.
I think generally around 1 to 2 inches, but it really depends on how much precipitation forms ahead of with the Arctic front. But generally 1 to 2 inches, I would say, would be a good bet.
Right on. Cool. Jonathan lives out there, and he's also a weather nerd, so I'm going to defer to him for that call.
The would-be official.
The would-be official. Okay, here. Let's look over at Facebook for a bit. Let me know if any other... So I made it down to about... that Whidbey Island question.
Yeah.
All right, looking over at Facebook right now. Love Wall. Yeah, we're supposed to get some snow tomorrow, Sunday. Bothell area probably will get some snow. Justine Crosby, the Arctic front could reach Snohomish County late morning to early afternoon with a possibly associated snowfall. Thank you, Love Wall, for the stars. Really appreciate that. By the way, if you guys don't know what stars are, it's basically just a way to monetarily support me as a creator. Nicole LaFell, I think Port Angeles is going to get some decent snow out of this just due to the fact that the northerly modified Arctic wind is going to be coming across the Strait of Juan de Fuca, possibly picking up that extra moisture as it does, and then slamming into the northern side of the Olympic Mountains. Is going to have an orographic effect, basically squeezing that moisture out in places like Port Angeles and Sequim. So it could overachieve there. You guys have seen that happen quite a few times the last couple of years. Deb Lewis, there will be some snow for the eastern part. This is looking at what the National Weather Service in Spokane is expecting for east of the Cascades. 2 to 3 inches in Plain, about the same for Leavenworth. 1 to 2 for Wenatchee. 1 to 2 for Spokane. 2 to 3 for Walla Walla. 3 to 4 for Pullman. 2 to 3 for Winthrop, but I think Winthrop could possibly get a little bit more than that. All right. Any high winds coming to East Skagit? East Skagit. I will double check that. I don't think so. Not particularly, no. It might get a little bit breezy out there. Like out there by the mountains, it'll get a little bit gusty, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty high up out there. Yeah, we're like way up in the mountains. Okay, but if you live up in Whatcom County, it's going to get quite windy up there. Check that out. Wind gusts around 50 miles per hour. The wind chills are going to be crazy cold. Let's look at the wind chills if I can find it. Boom. So basically, as soon as that wind starts in Whatcom County, the temperature is going to begin dropping. And then by tomorrow, around noon, look at that.
Oh my
Wind
God,
chills, 4 below zero by Linden. Wind chill, not actual temperature, but wind chill. And then, look at that. Late tomorrow night, this has wind chills in the teens out there. Look at the wind chills. Woo! Look at the wind chills out there in Eastern Washington.
Oh
Negative 25 wind chills. Woo, man, bundle up. You got to be careful with that wind chill.
Yeah, that can get dangerous.
And then the wind chills down the I-5 corridor are also going to be reasonably cold, but nothing quite like Whatcom County. Whatcom County is awesome. Okay, look, some more questions here.
Getting plenty of questions on YouTube.
All right, I'm gonna look back at YouTube for a second. If you want to hang tight over here on Facebook, I'll be back.
You went on, and then everybody started asking questions.
Hello, thoughts for the builders? I'm scrolling down, just reading some comments right now. Just hang with me. North Snohomish County and Skagit County, is there a convergence ban? Looks like there's a convergence ban already starting to form, someone says on YouTube. So let me pull up
I was gonna check earlier, I forgot.
the radar here. Gosh. All right.
Some of the moisture is actually reaching. Oh.
So yeah, there probably is a bit of a convergence zone, but it's still above freezing. So right now we got some southerlies coming up. The Puget Sound. And it looks like it's meeting up with... I really don't know if that's a convergence zone or not. Let's see. It's got to be. Probably has something to do with the winds aloft.
I saw some light westerlies coming on the street earlier, so that could be it.
Yeah.
Not much though.
Let's take a look at the Euro here, and we'll go to regional view, and we'll...
The velocity on the radar shows southerlies and westerlies meeting over Whidbey.
Yeah, and you can see it
Yeah.
on the 925 as well. There's a bit of
Very weak.
weak convergence going on. But yeah, it's like 40 degrees out here.
Yeah.
But
the front is already like halfway through the Cascades, it looks like up north.
yeah. All right, looking through some more of your questions now. Yo, JGIF94 on YouTube. Okay, scrolling down. I think I accidentally scrolled all the way to the top. Storm Tracker Forecasting says, hey, I live in Portland, Oregon. I know you're only doing Washington, but what's the winter weather? What's the winter storm looking like for me? Well, since Portland is so close to Vancouver, technically that counts. I can talk about that a little bit. The NAM 3KM has the modified Arctic front getting about as far as about Chehalis, and then it retreats back to the north a little bit. But you guys are going to get backdoor cold out of the gorge. So check this out. By Monday evening, this model shows you guys getting some pretty cold air coming right out of the gorge, getting you guys down to the teens. So that could be interesting. I'm not sure if there's any snow associated with that. If it's that's probably the snow starting for the Tuesday.
Yeah, that's really questionable.
But yeah, you guys are going to get cold down there due to that gorge. The gorge is going to deliver some cold for you. And snow-wise, I really don't have a great answer for you. We could look over at the 18Z European Ensemble, Oregon,
What is the GFS at?
Portland International Airport. There shows you getting guys pretty cold. And there's a couple members on the European Ensemble that are showing a bit of snow around Tuesday, Wednesday, but the ensemble mean is very, very, like,
just
quarter of an inch. So, sorry. But it could go more. There's two members that are showing 2 to 3 inches. A couple members that are showing in 1 inch. So, not all hope is lost if you love snow and you live down there in Portland, Vancouver. All right, I'm just reading through some more comments here. Da, 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 da. Sam Ratet, I think the reason why people are asking about North Carolina is because people think that this is like a Washington, D.C. weather page, maybe. East Coast. And the YouTube analytics could be sending it over there to the East Coast. Meatwad says, smash that like and subscribe button to stay up to date with latest streams and stay warm out there. I agree. Thanks for that plug. Snow for Monroe and Gold Bar? Yes. Most likely, according to the National Weather Service, they're expecting at least a couple inches out there. And it is going to get chilly. All right, looking through more comments here so I can answer more of your questions. Switching over to Facebook, looking at questions on Facebook. John Brees says, smile if you want snow, frown if you like tennis. Well, I'm smiling now. My resting face tends to be frowny, I will say. Thanks for the reminder. Meatwad, do you happen to be Maya? Okay, yeah, I just saw your comment come up. Nice. Okay. Okay. Looking at some comments over here on Facebook again. Okay, folks. So, yeah, mostly just focusing on the next couple days here, but looking ahead, there is a possibility of more snow on Tuesday. Exactly where, we don't know for sure just yet. The 0Z GFS is just now running, so we can look at that and see. It looks like it's still being goofy. It is not... Oh, actually, I think it finally bowed, Jonathan. Wait, no, that's the first trough. It did not bow.
It's really weak on that second one.
It's
actually weaker, a little more weak than the previous runs.
It's hard to believe how... So the global forecasting system, the American model, global model, is in big time disagreement for Tuesdays.
It's got full snow, though.
But it's got full snow, so it actually weakened that deal quite a bit. So the GFS now does show snow for most of western Washington, some snow in eastern Washington as well on Tuesday. The European shows snow for western Washington on Tuesday as well. Bit of a snow shadow. Look at that snow shadow.
Yeah.
Seattle, basically an Everett to Seattle to Federal Way snow shadow. But places like Whatcom County get big time snow. All right, taking a look at those observations again real quick. Down to 21 in Lytton. We can see what the progression of the temperatures has been there. Looks like it's been pretty cold in Lytton for a bit, actually. But it got up to 27 today at 4:15, and the stronger northerly winds began around 3 p.m. and it's been reporting light snow there since this morning in Lytton, actually. Take a look at the observations in Hope. Temperature has actually gone up in Hope, so the Arctic front is not there yet. If you look right here, you can see the time. You can see the temperature scale down here in the bottom. Gonna look through some more of your comments here. Christopher Maroney says it looks like the Bothell area is going to get skunked on snow. I'm not totally sure about that just yet. The National Weather Service shows that area getting about 1 to 2 inches of snow, but depending on where any convergence bands set up with the Arctic air tomorrow, there could be some more locally. Keith Evan reports mixed snow and rain a few miles north of Arlington, elevation 400 feet. That just so happens to be where we are going to go here in a little bit. Ooh.
It does have to kind of switch over up there a little bit.
Yeah?
Never mind.
That was the Canadian model I was looking at. But you can see some snow moving into the mountains. Yeah, there's some rain-snow mix-up there. That's what someone reported. Okay, folks. Unless you got some more questions, I think I am going to... Okay, Leah asks, what is a snow shadow? It's a great question. So, a snow shadow is basically this hole of snow right here where there's a lack... I should say this hole of lack of snow. There's snow all around it, but a lack of snow. Basically, in the Kitsap Peninsula, eastern slopes of the Cascades, into the western portions of the I-5 corridor from about Everett down to Federal Way. And the reason why this happens is because the flow aloft is likely pretty close to being straight out of the west for Tuesday. It kind of has it out of the west-northwest for the Tuesday storm when it comes through. So, there we go. So the air going up and over the Olympic Mountains, as the air descends on the lee side of the Olympic Mountains, the eastern side of the Olympic Mountains, when air sinks and when it's coming down, it compresses and it dries out the air. We call that snow-eating air. That'd be the snow-eating machine for this region right here, as the air goes up and descends over the Olympic Mountains. But areas like Whatcom, Skagit, and North Snohomish County would favor well because they wouldn't be getting affected by that sinking motion of the air coming down over the Olympic Mountains. Okay, folks, if you... Evie Webb says light snow in Colbert, Washington, northern Spokane area. Let's check out Spokane on the radar real fast, and then we'll sign out. Oh, must be very light snow. Oh, I think that was that little bloop. Yeah, that was. Bloop. Nice. Yeah, that was light snow. Didn't last very long. Okay, guys, if you missed me talking about your area, I apologize. One thing I forgot to talk about is if you live out on the coast, you're also included in all of this. You guys are probably going to get some snow out on the coast.
And chilly.
And cold. Nam3 Cam's like, nah. Actually, that was the her I was just looking at. The NAM3 cam shows a little bit of snow showers out there on the coast. And you getting relatively cold. There's a chance that the modified Arctic front will reach Forks by about 7 p.m. tomorrow. And places like Ocean Shores by Monday morning. Okay. Over on YouTube. Courtney Swisher on YouTube asks about Port Angeles. I think you guys have a decent shot at getting some good snow due to this modified Arctic front coming out of the north, going across the Strait of Juan de Fuca with northerly winds, slamming into the north slopes of the Olympic Mountains, squeezing out moisture in communities like Port Angeles and Sequim. And you can see that a little bit on the modeling.
Kind of wrings all the moisture out.
Wrings it out like a sponge.
Yes.
Should start doing weather forecasts and interesting accents. Okay. Oops. Okay, folks, I am going to call it a night and try to get some good rest ahead of tomorrow. But thanks for joining on with me tonight. I'm sorry if I didn't talk about your question or your comment, but thanks again for hanging out. Tomorrow, I have some commitments in the morning. I might head out in the very early morning to go check out the snow in Whatcom County. And then I'll be busy until about 1 p.m. And then tomorrow afternoon, I'll be out checking out the conditions. And then I have a commitment from about 5 to 8 p.m. And then after 8 p.m., I will be out chasing the snow for as long as it is falling. So you can expect some snow chasing live streams tomorrow. Thanks again for hanging out. If you don't already follow the Facebook page, please go ahead and give us a follow. And if you're watching over on YouTube, please go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe and ring the bell so you can get notifications for when we go live like this. And I will talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.